New Lisbon, New Jersey. 1975. A school for those who were disabled would have 3 missing person cases. 2 young kids, who were students at the New Lisbon State School for Retarded Males, located in New Lisbon off of Highway 72, would be reported missing. Police would arrive to the school to take the report for 2 roommates, Stephen Anderson, 17, and David Williams, 12. Both would last be seen on the campus around 4:30 p.m. Stephen and David were then seen walking towards their room but were never seen again. Years later in 1982, on March 2, another resident would be reported missing. Kenneth Schweighardt, 46, would last be seen around 11:45 a.m. All of these cases have remained unsolved. We need tips as their families still wonder where they are today. Have you seen Stephen, David, or Kenneth? Please submit tips to New Lisbon Human Services. Madison, New Jersey. October 21, 1982. Someone would sight a person laying on the train tracks. Police would arrive and unlock more details in this case. Along the tracks, at Madison train station in New Jersey, an employee would see a person and alert police. When police arrived, they would find the man, deceased, who was later identified as James Wesco, 34. Detectives would trace James' steps and find that he was seen walking along Lincoln Avenue the night around 12:50 a.m. He was alone. Someone has to know how James would be found at the train station. And now is the time to speak up. Do you know any information about this case? Please contact Morris County Prosecutor's Office. Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey. July 4, 1982. A woman expecting a large sum following her divorce would be missing days before finalizing. Her family knows she's a devoted mother and would not leave without her daughter. Theresa Kawash, 36, mother, beautician and recently working on finalizing her divorce. But her and her ex-husband lived together, yet they freely were dating. Theresa would be dating a Norwegian man and would allegedly looking to be remarried with him and moving to Norway. The plan was to take their daughter, but her husband at the time was allegedly against it. The day that Theresa was last heard, her husband would hear her before he headed out with their daughter around 8 a.m. that morning. He would return and find laundry going, fridge filled with groceries but no Theresa or her car, a gold 1977 Datsun 280Z. A few days later, he would report her missing. Months later the divorce would be finalized, and Theresa would be rewarded full custody, but she would still be missing. Theresa's passport has since not been used. Her family knows this is very unlike her, and are continuing to seek for new tips and answers in Theresa's disappearance. Have you seen Theresa? Please contact the Englewood Cliffs Police Department. This was an exciting time, how couldn't it be? The internet was becoming alive, the digital age was commencing and people were having the time of their lives with the rise of gambling across the nation. With all that excitement, sometimes you want to get out with friends and play some pool. For one man, after his night out, it would be the last time he was seen alive again. Manville, New Jersey. February 25, 1996. Gary Butler, 25 at the time, decided to go to Perhaka's bar. At Perhaka's, Gary was having some fun playing pool with some of the regulars and he stayed there until around midnight. After leaving the bar, Gary walked a friend home. He then went to the Chester house. Here he was renting a room on the second floor. Between the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., Gary traveled to the town of Bound Brook. Police believe that on Gary's way back to Manville, he was assaulted. Tragically, on February 26, 1996, Gary would be found dead in a retention pond on North Main Street near the border of Bridgewater and the Raritan River. Gary was viciously beaten to death, and his killer still remains free from conviction in this case. Someone had to have seen Gary. Think back. If you remember anything, your tip could help solve this case. Until then, Gary's case remains unsolved, by the minute. Please, if you have any information about this case, contact Crime Stoppers. We, the community, do want justice to prevail. So we, the community, must make sure that if we know something, we say something. Do what's right in making sure Gary get the justice he deserves after his life was taken away so young. Please submit tips to Crime Stoppers. Chatham Township, New Jersey. October 23, 1963. Firefighters would be headed to the scene to put out a blaze. When inside, they would find that someone was attempting to cover up their crimes. Fire and rescue would head to the 60 block of Linden Lane. When they arrived inside, in the bedroom they would find a woman unresponsive. After removing her and putting the fire out, they would realize she was deceased prior to the blaze. Our victim was Serena Waterman, 61. Authorities would attempt to get details, and they have found that Serena was seen alive at her home earlier that morning. Please, if you have any tips, feel free to contact the Morris County Prosecutor's Office. Pequannock, New Jersey. February 3, 1969. A man protecting his family would end up dead, but authorities were able to get a composite of the suspect. It would be the early morning hours when a father would hear his daughter scream. As he went to check it out, he saw a man and would chase after him. Our victim was Alexander Messier. A news article would recall that Alexander was stabbed within this occasion. Police would come to the scene on Ryerson Avenue and grab details to get a composite of the suspect. Described as a white male, approximately 45 years of age, 200 pounds, approximately 6 foot tall with receding brown hair, lots of hair on the sides, wearing a waist-length jacket with a V at the neck. A news article on this case speaks about how offering a reward was to do so because people do not want to get involved. As time has passed, step up and do the right thing. Do you know the man who took the life of Alexander? If so, we need you to contact the Morris County Prosecutor's Office. Parsippany, New Jersey. January 18, 1971. 2 restaurant owners' lives would be taken. Hopefully, this composite can help us finally get the justice they deserve. Police would be called to 82 North Beverwick Road for 2 people dead. When they arrived, they would find Shum Sang, 39, and Toki Sang, 41. Both were deceased. At this time, police are withholding cause of death, as they continue to work this investigation. Shum would be found lying on the ground by his car, and Toki would be found inside the car. Both were restaurant owners of a Chinese restaurant, the House of Sang on Route 46. Police were able to get a composite of the suspect shown here. Do you know who the suspect of this horrendous double homicide? Please come forward and contact the Morris County Prosecutor's Office. Rockaway Township, New Jersey. January 5, 1983. Many years ago, a woman would be found deceased in her own vehicle. Who could be responsible? Police would be called to a restaurant parking lot. The Beefsteak Charlie's restaurant on Route 46. Inside a 1973 Ford Maverick, a woman was found deceased in her car. That woman was 28-year-old Judy Brown. News articles depict that Judy was shot with a shotgun. Police would trace Judy's steps and conclude that she was last seen alive at her workplace Bell Atlantic in Ledgewood, around 5 p.m. that evening. Do you have any tips that could trace authorities back to the murderer in this homicide? Please contact the Morris County Prosecutor's Office.
Kinnelon, New Jersey. September 18, 1986. An elderly veteran would be viciously beaten inside his home. Whomever is responsible must be held accountable. Lester Mickens was 89 years old. He served in both World Wars and would be at his home located in the 1600 block 1671 of Route 23. Police would be called to the residence around 9 a.m. and find Lester deceased. Autopsy results would state that Lester was bludgeoned with an object. At the scene, police would find that the motive was robbery, and the telephone lines were cut. They would speak with neighbors and find that Lester was last seen on his porch around 3 p.m. Lester fought for our country, and he should not have been taken away like this. If you have any tips, please contact the Morris County Prosecutor's Office. Lincoln Park, New Jersey. August 2, 1995. A family in search of their missing loved one would get the gruesome news of her death. What's even worse is that her crime has remained unsolved for decades. A sister would head to the police department to report her missing sister on July 29, 1995. That woman being Deborah Walton, 34. Deborah would be last seen at the intersection of Passaic Street and Chauncey Street in Paterson, New Jersey between the hours of 2 to 4 a.m. the night before. Her family would get the bad news on August 2, 1995. At an industrial park located at Berinsky Road, Lincoln Park, New Jersey, workers would find a deceased woman. She would later be identified as Deborah Walton. Autopsy would state the cause of death as blunt force trauma. If you have any tips in this case, please contact Crime Stoppers. Whippany, New Jersey. November 12, 1996. A man would be shot to death in his very own driveway. Police would head to 17 Baird Place for shots fired. At the scene they would find Richard Breitbarth, 48. Richard was the owner of Biophase Systems. Autopsy would reveal that also with being shot several times, Richard was hit with a blunt force object. Richard would just be returning home from grocery shopping when this event occurred. If you saw anything, please speak up. If you have tips, please contact Morris County Prosecutor's Office. Bernards Township, New Jersey. June 29, 2000. A beloved and dedicated employee would lose his life in a robbery after doing exactly what was told. It would be the night hours when police were called to the scene for a deceased man. Police would arrive to the King George Exxon, located on King George Road and Interstate 78. In this affluent area, police would find employee Joseph Sauce, 32, deceased from a gunshot wound. Joseph would dedicate 10 years of his time at this workplace, growing familiarity and love with the neighborhood. Witnesses recall seeing our suspect speak with Joseph and ask question about the vending machine. The suspect would ask Joseph for change for the machine. Joseph would remove the money and the suspect would shoot him in the head. The suspect would then briskly walk towards from the south side entrance towards the highway, while Joseph would succumb to his injuries at the scene. The suspect was described as 5 feet 9 inches to 6 feet 1 inch tall, thin build, dark complexion and between 20 to 30 years old. Do you have information about this robbery? A community has yearned for justice. Help us by contact Crime Stoppers. Irvington, New Jersey. April 12, 2012. Human remains would be identified and unlock a missing persons investigation from 2008. Landscapers would have a horrific day when they would stumble upon human remains. They would call authorities to the scene located at Sylvan Way. Forensic examiners would find a body in a bag. They would later identify the young woman as Greta Tim. Forensic examiners know that she was killed in another place and brought to that scene. Greta had ran away in the past, but this time it was different. Her mother would report her missing and later receive the gruesome news in August. Do you know what happened to Greta? A family yearns for answers and justice. Please contact the Morris County Prosecutor's Office.
Morristown, New Jersey. January 15, 1985. Authorities continue to look for a suspect, and today, we hope witnesses' ID will help us get closer to getting him in custody. Police would be called to a residence located on Oliphant Drive for a deceased woman. That deceased woman was a housekeeper that lived and worked at the residence named Josephine Dauda. News reports from the Daily Record in 1985 describe how Josephine was found, but authorities' official releases refrain from offering that information and classify the case as an active homicide investigation. Authorities have released a suspect drawing and details of the suspect back in 1985. The suspect seen here is described as an African-American male, in his late 20s, around 6 feet 0 inches tall and a medium build. Take a minute to familiarize yourself with the suspect, as you think back to 1985. If you have any tips, please contact Crime Stoppers at 973 Cop Call. Josephine's life would be taken in a place she was supposed to feel safe, and unfortunately her case remains unsolved, by the minute. Join us in raising awareness for this case, and help authorities get this suspect in custody. This video was brought to you by the Minute News. Subscribe to our channel.